everyone, and welcome to the Rebirth Summit 2025 Stories of Unyielding Courage. I'm Scott V. Black, also known as Mr. Black. I'm the host of Like It Matters Radio, where I help people maximize the potentials they were created with. I'm also the CEO of Like It Matters Leadership Training. For over 32 years, I've had transformational leadership training across 3 countries, helping tens of thousands of people unlock their potential and live with purpose. I'm also a certified human behavioral specialist, a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming with a working knowledge of transactional analysis, cognitive behavioral therapy, and emotional intelligence. As an ordained pastor, I love going in the prisons. I serve with Kairos Inside Prison Ministry. I'm a certified trainer with Prison Fellowship. I've authored several books, including 180 Ways to Live Your Life Like It Matters, Becoming Your Dreams, Want It, Create It, Live It. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in the classroom, in prison, or behind a microphone working one-on-one. My mission is always the same: to empower people to live their life like it matters. And I am so honored to be selected as an interviewer for these International Summit featuring 100 plus inspiring stories of transformation and rebirth. And today I have an incredible woman with me. I'm going to meet her like you're going to meet her, but I got a little information on her. You don't. So let me share that with you. Her name is Dawn Erickson, and Dawn is a powerful voice for healing, hope, and purpose. She's a professional speaker certified by the John Maxwell Leadership Team. Dawn shares her personal journey to help others break free from the chains of past pain, mistakes, and depression. She has delivered her testimony at churches throughout the DFW Metroplex, speaking for 12-step programs that support healing beyond addiction. Her talks draw from deeply personal experiences, including navigating 4 crisis pregnancies, raising a son as a single mother, and walking through a long season of depression. Dawn is the author of The Destiny of Four, a moving memoir chronicling her life from age 15 through her 30s, with a second book already underway focused on her journey through depression. In 2024, Dawn retired from a successful career in IT to fully pursue her passion for helping others. As the founder of Destiny of Four, she continues to empower individuals to discover purpose in their pain and turn their stories into strength. Amen. Let's welcome Dawn Erickson. How are you doing today, Dawn?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad I have a fellow Texan. I'm just down the street from you. We could do this in person.
Cool.
Amen. Amen. Well, what an exciting story. And it sounds like you've done God's will, which is to take the unfairness of life, the things he didn't want to take place, and used it for his glory and for your good. Well done, his good and faithful servant. So
Thank you.
let's go where God went in the beginning, right? Genesis 1:1, John 1, in the beginning. So tell us where from you come, where do you come from?
Well, actually, from the beginning, I was adopted from Mexico. So that was my adoption story. And after that, I had a pretty good childhood. Nothing, I was a carefree child. Everything was all happy. And then when I turned 15 years old, I had my first boyfriend. And he had the most beautiful smile. His name was Joey. Well, he was a senior in high school, and I was a freshman in high school. And when ended up graduating, my parents told me that I had to quit dating him. I was heartbroken, but the next day I told him that I couldn't see him anymore. So, about a few months later, Joey committed suicide. I was heartbroken and I didn't know what to do. So I started drinking and doing drugs, and that led me to finding love wherever I could find it. So at the age of 16, ended up being pregnant. And my parents sat me down and told me that I was brought shame to the family. And so their decision was that I was to have an abortion. My father took me to the clinic. We spoke a little bit on the way, but on the way home, it was a silent moment. I ended up getting pregnant again at the age of 22. But this time, my mother took me to a pregnancy center where they talked about adoption. So I went ahead and chose adoption for my child, and I gave my son to another family. At the age of 30, my life was starting to kind of get together, and I was going to school for my 4-year degree. And I was 30 years old and just didn't want to mess the family up. I didn't want to go back and tell them I was pregnant again. So I ended up making my decision to have an abortion on my own because my parents had made that decision, and I didn't know it was a wrong decision at that time. Then at the age of 32, I got pregnant again. But this time I decided that I was going to become a single parent.
And the rest is that we read about in the book. But at some point, things change, though, right? At some point, you realize that the path you were on was either too painful or not productive enough, and something changed. So, what was that thing that happened where finally said, "Enough's enough. This path is not working." What caused you to change paths?
Well, it was actually the decision of me keeping my child.
Amen.
And it was actually about 11 weeks old when I went in and I had decided to raise the child on my own before I even went in to see a doctor. And I went in to see the doctor, and they gave me a sonogram. And they also I also got to hear my son's heartbeat at 11 weeks old. And tears came from my eyes and down the sides. Since I was lying down, it came down the sides of my cheeks. And that is when I decided that I quit thinking about me,
Amen.
and started thinking about this body growing inside of me. And I always heard about cigarettes and drinking was bad for the child. So I ended up quit doing that, and I started feeling better. I didn't know why, but I did.
What a concept. Yeah. I work a lot with Susan B. Anthony Association, and I have them on my radio a lot. And they say when the sonogram, that's why a lot of pro-abortion people don't want them to do the sonogram, because they say when a woman sees that child inside of her, and when she hears that heartbeat, and your tears, it warmed my heart because when that can happen, the rate of abortion is greatly diminished, and that's a big thing today. Abortion is glorified. We're not making a political statement. I know what God says about it. I know what I feel about it. Undoubtedly, what you feel about it. But this is where God, Romans 8:28, right? God causes all things to work for the good for those who love him, or called according to his purpose. And you're one of his. And so you chose to change paths. So tell me that transformation when you started putting that child before yourself, because that's what it was. It stopped becoming the me show, right? It's your show, the Dawn Erickson show, and it started being about someone other than you. And that changed everything. So tell me about that transformation. What did you experience? What was the hope that you had? What was the drive to be different from that point on?
Well, the drive to be different from that point on was because I had somebody to take care of. And it wasn't, I had a responsibility. It was like I was maturing overnight. And I started getting physically fit. I wasn't just quit doing those, I started doing something else better for my body. And so my favorite exercise was aqua aerobics. And I had moved to Dallas about a year before, and I started getting very worried about me raising this child on my own, for my parents were 12 hours away. And I didn't have a whole lot of support yet. But at the time, I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I made the decision and I kept that decision. And I became a devout mom. and a very hands-on mom. And started I didn't have very much social activity, except I did go to bowling every Thursday night and have a couple of drinks of beer.
Well, you know what? It's to listen to your journey and train. And God taught you the number one lesson in leadership. I'm a leadership coach first and foremost. Rule number one about being a leader, I say this all the time, it's not about you, leader. Get off yourself. And
Yeah,
God gave you a personal way to say it's not about you. It's about that beautiful little boy inside of you. And when you were
yeah.
able to get your focus off of you, what your flesh wanted, what you wanted, and all of a sudden put on him, so beautiful. And this next question, the first answer is God. God got a hold of you. But let me ask the question that I'm supposed to ask you. Who or what supported you in your journey as you made this transition? Like I said, you're a single mom now, you're doing all this stuff. You needed some help. Yeah, God's there. He's our spiritual guide. He gives us peace, but he also puts his hands and feet through other believers. So what support did you have when you needed that support? Where did it come from?
Well, my first support was my babysitter on Thursday night. She was my faithful babysitter, and she came over every Thursday night, no matter what. I worked in the same company that her dad worked, and if he didn't give her a ride, then I went and picked her up. And so she was there faithfully and never missed a night. And her family was a Christian family. So her family invited me to go to their church. And my mother had taken me to church when I was in grade school, but nothing really stuck. And obviously, and so, but this time something was a little bit different. And I they kept on telling me, sin is a sin, and people rate sins, but God doesn't, and
Okay.
He forgives all sins.
Right.
And so that's when my thoughts started to change.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized my son showed me unconditional love. But
Mm.
what the church showed me and what the Bible taught me is the understanding of unconditional love.
Wow. That's
And so
so beautifully put.
that's
Ah,
what I had. And at 35, I became a Christian, and I quit smoking and drinking for the rest of my life.
yeah, God changed you on the inside. Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, said, what must I do to be born again, or to be in the kingdom? He said, you must be born again. And absolutely correct. God requires perfection. And to God, I know it doesn't make sense to us, but any sin is the same. If you lie or commit adultery or murder, God says, I require perfection. You must keep all the law. And since none of us can do that, he sent his son to take it on for us. And he taught you that through your son. It's so beautiful that create the thing inside of you that you're growing, that you're creating. God taught you his love through that son. It's such a beautiful story. And I bet you that's how you're taking your pain and your from the past and using it for purpose. That's the next question. How are you now today using your experience to help others? Because you could be bitter, but you're not. I see the love in your eyes. I see your compassion for helping other people. You've used some of your mistakes from the past to make you better, to get you some warrior wings, if you will. So how are you using this to help people today?
Well, I one was my book. I wrote the book, and it tells my feelings deep down inside, how I felt with each child and all four children. And during this time right now, have a I have a relationship with the son that I gave up for adoption, because when I was 43, I decided to go back and find him. I did find him, and his mother told me, Dawn, thank you so much for the gift of my son. And tears came to my eyes, but this time they were happy tears. Just
And
like whenever I heard my son's heartbeat, they were happy tears. And I knew then that life was precious. All life was precious. And that's what I want to convey to other people. I went through post abortion Bible study class and I got to name my children that I lost through abortion. And I also facilitated, but I'm no longer facilitating a Bible study class because I decided to tell my stories instead and let people know that there is hope. And that's what I want to give people is the hope that there's hope after that you don't have to be eaten inside by
Yeah.
what you've done in the past.
Yeah, the guilt and shame, God's removed it from you. That's the powerful thing. And now you're a beacon. You're an example for other people to follow. So, what is your hope as people listen to this? Because you know there are lots of women right out there that are living in what you've been through. And today we glorify abortion. So, what is your hope for someone? Let's say someone's in your same situation. They're listening to this right now, watching this. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would tell them that not to drown your sorrows with alcohol and drugs. Numbing is not going to solve the problem. I would advise them to find a church. If they don't feel comfortable finding a church, to find a counselor or some kind of abortion healing type
Yeah.
class like I went through. And all you have to do nowadays is Google them. And I would, you know, there's classes, not only that, there's classes for men who have probably been corporate. I mean, they
Yep.
ask their girlfriends or whatever to have abortions. And so there's classes for men nowadays. But I even went through counseling to get over the guilt of
Yeah.
the suicide of Joey. And that helped tremendously. And so don't be afraid to ask for help
Amen.
and
Such a go ahead.
speak. You don't have to tell everybody in the world, like, you have to make sure you tell the person that's going to help you, not people that are going to tell everybody the world about it. So,
Amen. And quit worrying about what everybody else thinks about you. Do the right thing and focus on God. Don, you're an incredible example. You've been in there, you have the street cred, you understand what the pain is like, the separation like. And so your gift, your ability, your ministry, your purpose is so powerful. I just wish you the best. And it's such an honor to talk to you, and especially a fellow Texan. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So thank you so much, Don, for sharing your emotional heart powerful story. You are a journey of beacon and hope. God bless you.
God bless you, Scott.
So, this has been another incredible conversation from Rebirth Summit 2025 Stories of Unyielding Courage. I'm Scott V. Black, and it's been an honor to host this interview as part of this global movement for healing and transformation. Wisdom tells us that we cannot control what happens to us in life, but we have absolute control over what happens in us. That's the key. Pain is part of life, as Don has shared. Pain is part of life, but what makes us unique is how we deal with the pain in life. We can allow for it to make us bitter, or we can allow for it to make us better. It's up to us. And just like Don said, we can take whatever life throws at us and use it to help others and use our street cred. So I call it street cred as a way to help others who are going through similar struggles. This is how we live a significant life. This is how we rebirth ourselves. So stay tuned for more interviews from courageous speakers all around the world living their lives like they matter because they do. And until next time, this is Rebirth TV signing off. Bye bye.